Welcome to Coach Development Live on the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. If you're a new or developing coach who wants to coach with confidence, get better on the floor, and make a real impact, you're in the right place. Every episode, you'll hear from Level 4 coaches Todd and me, Kristin Bowen, as we break down practical coaching tips, real-world strategies, and answer your biggest coaching questions live. No fluff. Just the help you need to sharpen your skills and become the best coach you can be. Let's get started. Good morning.
Good morning. What's up? How are we doing?
Great. I'm good. Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah. Cranking, ready to rock and roll. I got my coffee going. I'm good to go.
Me too. Coffee. It's warm here today finally, but it's also very dreary. So just it feels like kind of cozy, but in a comfortable way. So I'm excited.
Cozy and comfortable. I see those things together.
Yeah.
Most cozy, comfortable. Got it.
Yeah. So and we're talking about a great topic today. This is something that is fun to talk about, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I like watching the intro video. All I could think about was this creating community and connecting with your members. Like that's what we want to talk about today, which is presence and attitude. Like that's the part of the 6 criteria that this falls into, presence and attitude. But I think that's the thing that makes CrossFit so special and so great, and why the affiliates are so much fun. And even something like we've got with Best Hour and the community that we've created with that is pretty darn cool. So love seeing everybody. Craig, what's up?
Good morning, everybody.
James in the house. Brad's here. Jess, you and I both. The coffee. Heck yeah, we're doing it. Omar making it happen. Haley, what's up?
Morning, Haley. Yeah. Good crew. Speaking of community.
Right.
These guys here.
So when it comes to, let's talk about this thing in 2 different ways. One, let's just as a coach connecting with people. What are your thoughts there? Like, what's your approach to that? How do you go about members?
Well, I'll give you a quick little story that happened the other day, which is essentially my answer. So I was taking class, and there were a couple new girls in there for the first time trying out the gym, and the coach and the owner comes up to a couple of us, and he's like, all right, those 2 girls, he said their names. He's like, they're in for the first time, so just make sure, go make them welcome, say hello, whatever. And I made a joke, and I was like, I don't like talking to people I don't know. And then, which was joking. And then we laughed, and he's like, well, you're in the wrong profession then. And it's just, that's the thing, right? Like we have to be okay looking around and finding the people that we don't know that well, or that don't know anybody else, and being the facilitators between them and everybody else, right? Like right. We're the ones that walk up to people and good morning, how are you? What's your name? I'm Kristin. What gym are you coming from? Are you in from out of town? Come on, let me meet you, or let me introduce you to a few people, right?
Yeah, it's and that's what's funny is leading. So going from where we're starting to where we're going to get to, which is, starting with how do you connect with your members, into how do you create community, which has this connection. I think what you just described is a big piece of it, is like, you've got to be the one that sets the tone. It's like, you want to go to a gym where everybody's going to welcome you in and everybody's going to run up to you if you're brand new. It's like, that's the gym where the owner and the coaches are the first ones to do that. If they see a new face, they beeline it over there and immediately say what's up and introduce themselves and ask how you're doing. And then there's other gyms that I've been to, unfortunately, where you walk in and nobody really looks at you. Nobody hardly talks to you. And they're the ones that I'm like looking for the coach and like, who's in charge here? And they're not running out of their way to come and talk to you. And it's like, you set the tone just by setting the example.
Yeah. And it's not surprising to me that, and we've heard from many people, you guys that are here listening included, where it's like, man, when I dropped into this gym and like no one said one word to me the entire time I was there. And it's not a surprise that you say, you're looking around for the coach, like who's in charge, who's the coach, and also nobody else is coming to talk to you because it trickles down, right? Like if the coach is not going to actively go try to find you and set that tone, then like nobody else is, it's likely that nobody else is too.
Yeah, exactly. Now, luckily, thank goodness, I would say that more often than not, when you walk into a CrossFit gym, and that's what makes the community and everything so special, is that's not the case, right? Somebody's going to come up and say something and you're going to be welcomed in. It's like,
Oh,
I love
yeah.
the fact that anywhere in the world that I've ever been to, it becomes a tribe, right? I'm like, cool, I'm going to go to this. I'm in this city. I barely speak the language. If I go to a CrossFit gym, I'm going to have my in. And I've had a number of stories like that where it's like I've been in a foreign country and I can barely speak the language. And I walk to a CrossFit gym and they realize I do CrossFit. And then the rest of the day, they're driving me around to places to go sightseeing or taking me out to dinner. Yeah, doing all the stuff. It's like, man, it's like, oh, you do CrossFit? You're part of us. Come on in. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool. Let's see what we got. We got a couple more folks here. Johnny, I'm with you. Coffee is live. Matt, what's up? Jens, what's going on? We got Steven in the house. Jens, the connection comes 100% from constant care we provide the members with. And I love that word care. But it's hard to put a finger on what does that exactly mean. It's one of those deals where it's like, if you're around somebody, you can tell if they care or if they don't. But what's nice, thank goodness, is the way that you show you care is probably different than the way that I show I care. And with our coach development program, one of our lessons is on a tangible, objective way about showing people that you care and connecting deeper with them. What is that approach?
We're talking about the F.O.R.D acronym.
Yes, the F.O.R.D acronym.
So we have an acronym, right? F.O.R.D, F-O-R-D. And that stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And like you said, I love it because it's just, this is such an intangible element, right? Like it's one of those things that can be hard to explain, how to do it. It's usually immediately recognizable, but oftentimes it's a skill, just like with anything we practice, right? Like you already said, it's one of our 6 different criteria. And oftentimes this is one of those that people are like, oh, it just doesn't come naturally for me to talk to people. I really like coaching, but I'm pretty introverted. I'm uncomfortable. And so this is so great because it gives us this tangible thing that we can be like, okay, no problem. Use this acronym. And the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to ask somebody about their family. Ask them some questions like, hey, are you married? Cool. Do you have kids? Awesome. How old are your kids? What do they do any sports? Like question after question after question, family. Okay. Well, what do you do for work? There's your occupation. Right? How do you go about then asking for like recreation?
That's what I was gonna say. Those two, that's the low hanging fruit. It's like family. What do you do for work? And then it's like, okay, cool, I'm out of here.
What are your dreams? What do you want to do with your life? Yeah.
Well, I think it's a 4-letter acronym, and most of the time, especially in the environment of a CrossFit gym, like people come in and they're intimidated, even if. Like if somebody's brand new and they're walking into your gym, they're going to be nervous and intimidated, right? And so asking about family and what they do for work is an easy way to kind of open the door and get them to get comfortable. Even if somebody's done CrossFit before somewhere else and they've moved to your town and they're looking for a new gym, they're nervous and they're scared because they're like, my gym was so great. There's no way that I'll ever find another one anywhere close to being like mine. And so they still walk in with that same insecurity or same nervousness that a brand new person does. And so just by showing interest in asking those type of questions is going to make a big difference. It's going to allow them to loosen up, know that you're interested in them and curious about them, which is nice. And I think the recreation and dreams, those are 2 things that you move to as the relationship evolves and as you get to know them more and as you gain a little bit more buy-in. And now it's like, all right, you've been a member of mine for 3 months, 6 months, a year. I know what you do for work. I know what's going on with your kids or your wife or your husband or whatever, your partner, any of that kind of stuff. now we're hanging out before class and I still want to get to know you more. This is where you start going, all right, well, what did you do this weekend? What do you do for fun outside of work? You start doing that kind of stuff. And then they start talking about, and to me, that leads to the potential of the dreams. When somebody, like, when I get to know what somebody does outside of work, then it's like, oh man, okay. Is this something that you would like to do as a profession sometime? Or, you know what I mean? It can kind of move that direction. How do you usually approach that?
Yeah, very similar. And one of the things I wanted to point out that you said, that I think there's a little bit of a misconception when we encourage coaches to use this acronym as a way to break some barriers and find out a little bit more about their clients, is you don't have to do it all in one sitting, right? Like it's a guideline.
Okay, Kristin, what do you do for work? What's your
Yeah.
family? What are your
Check.
dreams? What's
okay,
your
tell me about your recreations. Okay, check. Yeah. So, and that's the key, right? This is a guideline. It's guidance to help us bridge the gap, to help us have some conversations. If you're just rolling through them to check the boxes, it's missing the mark a little bit. And so no, it absolutely does not have to be done in one sitting. It's a little bit at a time. One of the other things that comes to mind when I'm thinking about this is there's definitely going to be times where you're going to feel probably a little bit of a wall, right? Like you ask a question, you get maybe a one-word answer, or you can perhaps sense like, okay, I'm asking a question and it feels like they don't really want to talk about this. So there's a lot of, you've got to be able to read the person a little bit as well, because you don't want it to backfire to where now you're so intent on asking questions and getting to know this person, you actually turn them off because you're trying to dig too deep, ask too many personal questions that maybe you haven't created that rapport with them yet. And we've got it. That's why it starts with family and it ends with dreams. So we're just baby stepping our way in. And it's just a way to help us create that rapport and help us create that connection.
Yeah, and I think what also is cool, you made mention early on of like how we act as the facilitator. Somebody new comes in, I go up and start talking to them. I start asking them questions about work or why they're in town or what's going on. And not only am I trying to get to know them, but I'm also looking for trigger words or items that I know can connect them with somebody else. Oh, you're
Yeah.
a doctor? We've got a doctor, come over
Oh,
here.
you don't say you're a doctor? Can you help me with this issue that I'm having?
Yeah,
You don't do that? Should we not
Yeah,
be doing that? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh, you're from Boston? Larry's from Boston. Let's go over here. He just went to the Red Sox game or something like that. And it allows you to start to make some of those connections.
100%.
So you don't have to do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, we're a facilitator. It's not, we don't need to do everything all the time, but we should be the ones that are helping to bridge the gap and bridge the connections with everybody.
I love seeing some more comments.
I
We
know.
got
Hey,
Simon coming
Simon.
from, like, us talking about this makes me think about Simon and I've known Simon, I think, for maybe 12 or 13 years now, from the first time I met him on a seminar. And like a year ago when we went to do the Diesel Day, I learned more about him and I didn't realize how good of a golfer he was and how he'd grown up playing golf. A couple years previous to that, I learned about how into coffee he was and how much more advanced he was in coffee than I am. And so I was able to learn from him. And now it's like we're always sharing beans and stuff like that. So it's the same trickle down effect of like there's always something more to learn about somebody, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Brad, I find it's more in the subtleties of a class experience. What are the moments between when you're demonstrating and cueing and coaching? And yeah, I completely agree with you. It's like, this is where, one, we don't want a lot of downtime. Yes, there's naturally going to be some downtime. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to fill every minute with words and just stuff for the sake of filling it with stuff. But there is some of that downtime where we have the opportunity to get to know people and walk around and check in. It's like, yes, we're teaching, we're cueing, we're correcting, but having those check-ins and asking those questions. This is also cool where like a question of the day comes into play. Depending on what that question is, you can get more out of people. Start to understand a little bit more about them and what they like and things like that. Let's see. Amit, what do you think of sharing a little about yourself to build the trust, to make them comfortable to share this stuff with you? What do you think about that, K-Bo?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
I think that's huge. And I know we've talked about it before of oftentimes people walk into the gym and they think you as the coach or the gym owner are like, you're superhuman. they assume that because you know how to do the movements, or maybe you do well in some of the workouts and they've seen your scores, that you're like Rich Froning or Matt Frazier in their eye because they know nothing else. And so you being able to share things about yourself or the movements you struggle with or the things you struggle with inside the gym will allow them to realize that if they're struggling, that it's okay, because everybody struggles. I think not only like verbally sharing that kind of stuff, but also being the one to set the tone, to show up to classes and do the workouts that are going to suck, are going to be the ones that you're not very good at and you're going to finish towards the bottom of the leaderboard. I think that kind of falls in line with that, where there's a ton of value of it. I'd be curious to know from you guys listening, what do you guys do? What's the best way to connect with folks, and how do you ensure that connection when you guys are coaching class or just at the gym in general? What do you guys do to make sure that you're connecting with people? Kristin, besides F.O.R.D, how do you transition like those individual connections that you've got to developing a community to where everybody's trying to make those same sort of connections with each other and not just you facilitating it the entire time?
I mean, I think there's a lot of different approaches that I've seen have been pretty successful, right? As far as like, we're going to have social after class, like kind of set things up outside of the gym that people can begin to go to and get to know each other outside of the gym. But in the gym, if we're talking about the context of just the daily class, like the general warm up is a really great time to just allow people to, have a little bit of freedom to chat with each other. The biggest thing for me, honestly, is still thinking about facilitating the conversations, like leading the connections, and then, just trying to make connections with people. And I don't know, what do you do? What kind of things do you do?
I just think it's kind of like what we've talked about already, where just being the person and setting the tone that, number one, is the gym owner, I'm going to try to connect with everybody. I'm going to make sure that my coaches do the same thing, and just create this environment to where, like, there's going to be natural clicks inside of gyms because people like people get along and find more commonalities with other people. So that's naturally going to happen, but to do so in a way to where each of those little groups are still open to other people. So I do my best to set the tone, making sure that I'm connecting everybody, just like you said, facilitating, to try to break up and prevent any of those little like one-off things, and just create a space where everybody's welcome and open and all that stuff.
I put this up here because I 100% agree with this. I do this all the time, like asking questions, but like making fun of myself, and it's so much safer to make fun of yourself than it is to like make fun of someone else with good intention, because you're like, this will be funny, and then it doesn't land, and you're like, well, now this is awkward and I think I've offended them, and it's like not a good idea, right?
Believe me, yeah.
But I can always make fun of myself, and then and
that's a hard lesson. It's taken me a long time in my life to learn, and I think I'm still learning that quite a bit.
Well, even at the seminars, I've learned that too. Like I've over the years, would make a joke about somebody being really young, right? Because they didn't know a song that was on. And it just, you could see, especially when they're young, and it's like, it didn't land. And I'm like, okay, noted. I can make fun of me for being old, and maybe a couple other people in the audience that are my age, and I'll be like, this song, Todd. I know, we're we're the same age, whatever. But don't make fun of people for being too young. And so you just have to switch it up a little bit. And that, I think, helps. It helps avoid awkward scenarios, but then it also, again, it helps to kind of build that fun environment that we're looking for.
Yeah. Speaking of awkward scenarios, I like what Brad said here, is where they do the question of the day every day during warmups, which helps get people talking, which I think is awesome. This is the other thing. I bring up things I'm watching or see online from recent days. Is there any parameters to that, Brad? I'd be curious to know, because I typically try to do the same thing, but I always try to do it in a way where I'm like, I'm going to bring up the stuff that I know is pretty vanilla, that's not going to like divide my people. So like the political things that are going on or stuff like that, I'm like, ooh, there's some big news here, but I'm not going to talk about that, not in this format.
So there's topics
that somebody gets super brought up. And so there's certain times where there's like not much going on that I can bring up. And I'm like, most of the stuff that I pay attention to outside of this, probably a lot of people don't have a lot of interest in. I'm really into baseball and sports, and like there's not many people that care very much about what's going on the first week of the baseball season. So I bring that up and it's crickets. So I'm like, I need some different things to bring up.
Yeah, Brad says sports, popular shows, or weather only. Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, to your point, we're kind of joking about that, like the whole joke about the dinner table, the Thanksgiving dinner table, right? Like politics, religion. But any of those hot topics that can polarize your people, like this, it's such the gym, the CrossFit gym, and the community you create. I mean, how amazing is it to have this space where it's just almost like this safe haven from all of the things that are happening outside the walls of the gym, right? Like this person feels this way and that person feels this way. And there's so much fighting and everything going on online and social media. And then you come and it's like, I think you've said before, right? Like you can have a 16-year-old kid working next to a doctor, working next to a human rights lawyer, working next to a teacher, and they working out, and it just doesn't matter because you're all in there and everybody's part of this community. And the more we start bringing up topics that can divide the people in the room, the dicier that community has the potential to get, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So just play it safe. There's plenty of things to talk about, and I love this comment by Matt. Because I do the same thing, Matt. Like if I'm typically not super active we have like the sugar WOD, unless I'm in the class or I'm coaching the class, and then I am in there like writing comments, giving fist bumps, doing all the things to just show that I'm active in there. So yeah, especially with the athletes I coach in the class, I think that's super cool
I think that's huge too. This is another example of like leading by example. It's like we need to model the behaviors that we want everybody else to do. And so it's like if we want everybody in the gym to give fist bumps or give high fives or whatever it is on your app and make comments, then you need to be the one doing so first, because you're going to set the tone and people are going to follow your lead. So I love that. I think that's great. Brad, I'm with you here. The most polarizing thing is, does pineapple belong on pizza?
Which is such a polarizing thing.
Dude, people get so fired up about that, right?
People get so fired up. And I agree with you, Brad. I'll put pineapple on my pizza.
Yep. I'm completely in on that one.
Yeah.
One of the other questions that we got was like, how do you make quick connections at seminars? And I will tell you right now, you made mention to it before of like introverts and extroverts. Believe it or not, I like to keep to myself. I am an introvert big time. And so I think the hardest thing for me when I first started on staff was being in a room of 50 strangers and knowing that I couldn't just like sit in the corner by myself or go to the 3 other trainers that I already know and keep asking them questions. And it was like my job to get out and start meeting these new people. And I was terrified of that. I think
one of the things a lot of people would be surprised about is how many of us hardcore textbook definition introverts there are on the seminar staff. Yeah. Because I could not agree with you more. It's actually, I don't want to say it's my least favorite time of the seminar, but it's the most uncomfortable time of the seminar is the very beginning before I know anyone. And now I'm the one that has to go and like start the conversations, right? Like I've got to go and meet, and I can do it and I do it. And then once the conversations go and the connections are made and you start chatting with people, it's easy. But at the very beginning, before you know anybody, it can be pretty challenging. And I agree with you. It's so much more comfortable to sit and talk with the people you know. And this, and I want to get to the question, like answer a couple of things that we do, but I just want to make the connection here between this and just like coaching at your gym, right? I mean, as a coach, it's so much more comfortable for me to go in and just go and chat with the group over here of people that I've known for years and that I'm actually friends with outside of the gym, or I'm a little bit more comfortable with, but they're already standing there chatting with each other. So my job now is to look around again, like we said, and find the people that aren't chatting with people. And
Right.
that's not as comfortable for me to do, but it has to be done. That's part of the role here. And it's kind of the same thing at the seminars. Like one of my go-to strategies is when people are just milling around and we're doing registration check-in, you can see the people that are a little more outgoing and a little more comfortable talking with each other. And I let them be. They're meeting each other. They're good to go. I'm looking around for the people that are just standing in line. They're by themselves. They're sitting alone. They look a little less at ease. And they're the first people I go to just start asking some questions. And hey, you're going to be shocked, but I typically use somewhat of that F.O.R.D method, right? Like, hey, where are you from? You know, what gym do you go to?
Yeah.
How far was the travel? How was the drive? Like super benign, simple questions just to kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the only lifesaver for me, was that I knew I had a topic that I could start with, which was CrossFit. Tell me about where you're from. What gym do you go to? How long you've been doing CrossFit? If it's a level 2, how long you've been coaching for? Like, and then that can get the ball rolling a little bit and get things going. And as uncomfortable as that was and can still be, it's like that's been so powerful for me to be able to learn how to strike up a conversation, really with anybody at any time. Right? It's like it's not quite as hard as it appears to be, even though it takes a lot for me to do so. It's a good thing. I think luckily one of the books that I read right before I got on seminar staff was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Have you read that one before?
I haven't read it from cover to cover, but I've like listened to a bunch of excerpts from the audiobook, and yeah, I'm fairly familiar with it.
If anybody's listening here and has not checked that out, either read it or looked for excerpts or any of that kind of stuff, like his golden rules are incredible. And so one of them was like, people are going to like you more if they talk more about themselves. Like that's always stuck in my brain. And so I'm like, all right, whenever I meet somebody, if I want them to like me, I'm just going to ask them questions nonstop. So they just talk about themselves the entire time. And it's funny how you get done with a conversation where you just talked about yourself the entire time and you're like, man, I really like that person. It's like, you know nothing about them. And there's been many scenarios where it's like, I've had a 20 or 30-minute conversation, literally not given the person a chance or an opportunity to even ask me a question for me to share anything. But they've just talked the entire time, and you can just see with their attitude that they're like, okay, cool. I feel better. This is a good experience. I'm like, man, all right, that works. Just keep asking questions. And
and we talked about that, right? Like just ask one more question, always ask one more question. And that's where you go from, oh, I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. Oh, what do you do in Raleigh? And you keep, I found out people are NASA engineers through that. I mean, just like these jobs that it took me 5 or 10 minutes into the conversation to get to the point where they shared something a little bit more, I don't want to say more interesting than where they're from, but just something that then it's almost like once you unlock that door, now suddenly it's like, whoa, now I have 100 more questions to ask you. And then it just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah. Let's see what we got. I was always told early on in my coaching career to go talk to the people that not many people talk to. That's huge, man. I can't tell you how important that is, Steven. The people that navigate to the corners or the new people in the gym.
It's so important. And that trickles down. Like when we're talking about creating community, that is how you do it. Like if we do that as coaches and leaders, then the people in our gym that have been there for a while are going to see it's going to create the opposite effect of what you're saying earlier, where you go into a gym and it's like, who's in charge? Nobody's talking to me. I don't know anybody. No one's coming up to me. But yeah, if we continue to just find those people, it trickles down. It really does. And I know a lot of gyms. Do you, Todd, have like ambassadors in your gym that you've like specifically designated as that's a little bit of a role?
Yeah,
might be
we've done
older.
that. We've not utilized them as well as we should, but we technically have some. And
Yeah.
it's you look for the people that are already kind of naturally like that, the ones that
Hmm.
have been there forever, that are at the class most of the time, that are easy to chat with, and more than happy to grab the new person on a partner workout day and is like, cool, yeah, I'll work out with anybody. Doesn't really matter, right? Any of that kind of stuff. So
We
yeah,
all
that's
probably
good.
have. I mean, I can think of 3 or 4 people off the top of my head that I would like easily designate that to, because they're the ones that when someone walks in the door, they're the ones that walk up to them anyway. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, let me show you where the bars are. Let me show you, and it's so great to have people in the class like that, because uh again, it makes it to where it's not solely on the coach, but it can trickle out to everyone else too. So love that.
Yeah, James
I think this
was
is the book.
recommended.
Yeah.
Yeah, How to Win Friends. Working on my rundowns and being more confident in speaking. I will tell you, if we want to keep going down the Dale Carnegie, I took one of the Dale Carnegie courses on public speaking, and
Oh
that helped
yeah.
me. I used to be terrified of speaking in front of people, by the way.
Hmm.
Uh, who would have thought
What
that?
was can you think of 1 or 2 big takeaways that you got from that helped you?
I mean, the biggest thing is just like every week we had a meeting and you came in and you had to get up and speak in front of people. And I
Was
think
this
like,
in person?
oh yeah, it was an in-person
It's
thing. Yeah, it
pre
was.
2020.
Oh, very
Before
free. It was
Zoom.
like
I'm
it
like,
was like
you
2008.
went to a course in person? You had to do this in
Yeah.
person? What?
I did all that stuff. I did that course. Oddly enough, I was able to get I was working for Bank of America at the time. I got them to pay for it, which
Oh,
was good.
nice.
I
Yeah.
did Toastmasters. I've taken
Okay.
acting classes. It's really interesting
All
because
to help your public speaking?
yeah, because I was terrible at it. I was
Mhm.
so uncomfortable and awkward. And it was like most of the time when I wasn't very good at things, I was like, that's stupid. I have like, I'm just not going to do that. And for whatever reason, public speaking was the one that like I was so frustrated that I was terrible at it. And I also, whenever I did do it, I felt really good afterwards, even though it was really bad. So I was like, I need to do this more to get more. I don't know what it was. There was just something about it. So I did all these different things that forced me to get up and talk in front of people. And I used to just get up and be the person that just pretty much froze.
Did
Like I couldn't
you,
do
when
anything.
you took the course, you said you were working for Bank of America, did you own your gym at that time?
No, I was coaching at another gym. I
Okay, but
didn't
you were
I
already
got
a coach. Had you
yeah.
made the connection between, because I think it's interesting with public speaking, because oftentimes we think, oh, public speaking is standing up in front of people and giving like a speech, right? But when you're a coach, you're essentially public speaking like every time you go to the coaching floor, right? Like you're in
Oh
front
yeah.
of everybody, you're at the whiteboard, you're in front of everybody. And then throughout the class, you have to essentially project your voice and like all eyes on me. I'm publicly speaking to, so there's a crossover there. So it's just interesting. That's a skill that a lot of coaches struggle with. And it directly affects, in my opinion, directly affects your presence, right? When we
Oh,
talk about presence
100%.
and
Because if
attitude.
you like, there's so much of it as body language, right? Like
Yeah.
people aren't going to hear what you actually say. They're just going to perceive what you're doing up there. And so if you can't stand up and be confident, like if you're the person that kind of backs down and you're hiding behind the pull up upright as you're giving the whiteboard brief,
Everyone's
like
like, where is
that's just
she?
gonna, yeah, what is happening right now, right? It just is gonna set the tone. What do we got
Yeah, and
here?
the eye contact. I think talking about your public speaking course, right, from
Oh
James, I
yeah.
have this thing with eye contact where sometimes I avoid it too.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those things too, where if you just commit to making eye contact with people, sometimes it makes them awkward. And if you can just sit in that and be like, "Hey, I'm just looking at you," and Stephen had mentioned that earlier.
Mm-hmm. Lock
Um,
eyes with someone.
yeah, just do it. It's unbelievable. Like, and then you can start a lot of this stuff. I've kind of started playing as a game of like, I wonder what happens if I do this. I'm just going to talk to somebody and look into their eyes and see if they are able to like maintain and have that conversation. Do they back away? Do they turn? Like what
Do their
happens
eyes
with
like
that?
skit all over the
Yeah.
place. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, think about this. Think about when you're on the receiving end. If you're talking to somebody, they're asking you a question and you're answering their question, and you're answering the question they just asked, and they cannot maintain eye contact with you. Their eyes are just kind of like all over the place doing whatever. Does it feel like they're listening to you?
Not at all.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, all these things we think about on our side, like, okay, what are we uncomfortable with? What could we work on? But for me anyways, it's like such a great exercise to think about how I feel on the other side of it. So it's like, well, it might be uncomfortable for me to do X, Y, and Z, but if I'm on the other side of it, if I'm on the receiving end, I need to make sure that, like, no, I make myself look at them in the face. It might be a little bit uncomfortable, but what's more uncomfortable is how they feel when I'm not engaged in paying attention to them.
I think we've talked about this before on here, or on some of my other calls, of like, as the gym owner, I am like obsessively aware, or try to be aware of everything that's going on. I'm the one that, as we're in, in between classes, I'm trying to talk to somebody, I'm watching as the kid comes in and, goes to jump on whatever. And because of that, it's really hard when I'm having a conversation to not let my eyes wander and do exactly what you're talking about, just because, I want to see what the kids are doing, make sure that they're safe. I need to notice if somebody brand new walks into the gym because they need to be talked to. But to your point, if I'm talking to somebody and my eyes are going all over the place, I've had it happen, many times, where somebody's just like essentially stops their conversation, is like, oh, never mind, I'll let you
you're
do
busy.
it. And then I'm like, no, I'm listening to you. I'm sorry. I'm watching everything else. And so I've really had to commit to being like, hey, I'm in this conversation right now. I'm looking at you. Even if somebody brand new walks into the gym, I'm going to let them hang out for just a minute. Thankfully, because I've created a culture to where somebody else is going to walk up to them and be like, hey, I'm such and such. Oh yeah, Todd will be over in a minute, whatever that thing is. But it's still really, really hard for me to stay that focused and that direct. Let's see what else we got. Brad, tell me the 7-38-55 rule. I have a feeling that it's like 7% is what you say.
Keep going.
38% is how you say it, and 55 is your body language.
Body
is that
language.
Right?
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Words,
Is that it?
tone, body language.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's the case, and that sounds about right.
That's an interesting percentage, though. I wonder where they came up with that. Like 7-38.
They surveyed 100 people.
100 people, and 7 said, yeah, perhaps. But regardless, I believe it. Tone, words, tone, body language. Less important are your words. More important are the tone, and even more important than that is the body language.
There we go. I want to see that, James. Let us know how it goes. Just show up and just go 3 minutes, just straight eye contact. Just lean in and be like, how are you? Tell me about your family. Just don't ever blink.
James says, I feel bad for my 5:30 p.m. athlete that's on the receiving end. This is going to be great. 3 minutes, no blinking, eye contact.
Let's just sit in this.
That's going to be the thing he tries.
I'm fully present for you. That's going to be great.
He's like, Todd told me to try this. Just
this is great. This is going to make a good connection.
Yeah. Hey,
if
Ethan,
it's a new member, they might not come back. Ethan, new coach, love it. I will say going from the back of the classroom to coaching in the front is so different. I have felt more comfortable just giving a public speech. Ooh, tell us more. Yeah, I can remember. Can you remember like your first class?
Oh my God. Yeah, I was terrified because I didn't public speak at that point at all. And I hadn't taken a class for public speaking. It's just like, I had no idea what I was doing. And it's interesting even to read. For me, it's interesting to even read Ethan's note there, right? And I'll put it back on the thing so we can look at it again. Because just even reading that, it just takes me back to that feeling, right? And I'm like nervous, just thinking like, oh man, as a new coach, because your perspective from, like you said, from the back of the classroom, you're looking one way and then suddenly you're turning. It's almost like watching a movie, and all of a sudden they change the camera angle from like, now we're seeing what the main character is seeing. And it's just, it can throw your brain off so much. And it just reminds me of that. It's like, okay, now we're moving the camera around to now I've got this vantage point that I've never had before. This is the coach's eye now. And it's like, what do I do? What do I say? All these people are looking at me, waiting for me to talk. And so if we're saying public speaking is not a part of coaching, I'm going to just strongly disagree with that. Yeah. Speaking versus coaching. Great.
That is completely different as well. Yeah, I like you describing that of making that transition. I can remember being like, all right, I've practiced public speaking. I still wasn't good with it. I wasn't comfortable with it. The other thing was like, I had memorized the points of performance. It's like my first coaching was I did like an intro where I was going to teach the squat, the press, and the deadlift. And I was like, I know all these points of performance. I was spitting them off, knew it. I got up there to teach this one person that knew nothing, wouldn't have known whether I did it, said it right, any of that stuff. And I just like didn't know, couldn't remember any of the points of performance again, or know how to teach them or any of that kind of stuff. But even
hey, I bet it was totally fine, right? Like you got through it. They had a good session.
I don't know if they did. Well, air squat, maybe so. The front squat, when I started coaching the front squat in the intros of like, I was so determined to hit points of performance. Brand new or not, I was coming for you. No, those elbows need to be higher, whether the PVC pipe was choking somebody out or not. I was just so relentless in this stuff.
And that makes me think of even another aspect of when we're talking about presence and attitude, that it's just a constant rudder adjustment, when you're coaching and you're learning how to coach. And oftentimes the first thing that's really strong out of the gate can be the presence and attitude, because maybe you don't have the technical skills yet with the teaching, the seeing, the correcting. But it's like, man, you were put on that coaching roster because there's something about you that makes that people like, and you make people around you feel good. And those are these intangible things that oftentimes are a lot harder to train, right? So you get somebody on your coaching roster that's like, they've got the it, but we need to work on the technical skills a little bit. And inevitably, when you start pulling focus somewhere else and you're really now working on the technical skills, the presence and attitude can start to suffer a little bit. Maybe your classes aren't as fun because you're really trying hard to implement, like, all right, I'm really trying hard to do this static, dynamic, static, seeing and correcting thing. And suddenly the energy level just gets a little bit lower. And I just think that that's a natural part of progressing and learning how to, like essentially just make yourself better as a coach. But that's the cool thing about all these conversations that we have, and just the different drills that we end up doing with Affiliate U and coach development, is we're taking each one of these components, working on them in isolation, with the ultimate goal is that we're going to package them all together. And we're going to be able to find that nice balance between everything, so that not only can we have the technical components, but we can also feel confident enough about those that we can start to layer in that presence and attitude and just have the whole package. Much easier said than done, but that's the process, I think. So it's not surprising to me that, you talking about when you first started, you were just like hammering in the points of performance and just so focused on the progression and the elbows and everything. It's just like, relax a little bit. Let's make sure they're still having a little bit of fun.
Yeah. Let's make sure somebody comes back. Yeah, exactly. I like the fact that he brings up the point of the difference between speaking and coaching. It's one thing to just get up there and like present, here's the workout, present the progressions for the specific warm-up. What would you say the biggest difference between teaching and coaching is?
When I read this, what I think is planned preparation, like I know exactly what I'm going to say. I have to give specific information, and coaching now becomes interacting with what's in front of me, right? Making changes and like meeting the people where they're at in front of me, which is not as predictable as the speaking part, right? Like we can prepare as much as we can prepare, but there's a huge element of just unknown.
Which is getting them to actually do it. It's one thing to tell people, hey, here's what you need to do. You need to put your feet shoulder width and you need to get your hips below your knees. It's another thing to actually get them to do that. Mm-hmm. And I've seen plenty of times where coaches don't actually coach. They just teach, or they just speak of like, I'm just going to tell you guys to do it and assume that because I'm telling you, you're going to do it. And to your point, there's a lot more unknown that comes with that. And to actually coach means that you need to evaluate and adjust and make sure that actually happens. Couple other things. What do we got? Jess, I love this right here. they forget what you said, but remember how you made them feel, or how your tone made them feel. And if your body language is negative, it'll make them even more uncomfortable physically. Like that is one for sure. We've talked about that before, like leaning against the post, crossing your arms, putting your hands in your pocket. Who was it? Somebody earlier, yeah, Adam made mention of the PVC
The
pipe shield, where I
PVC
just
pipe
hold this
shield.
thing to
Yep.
like
Yep.
protect me, or to point at people, like,
Or to poke
you know,
people.
yeah,
Even
that's the word.
worse. Don't poke
Yep.
people with the PVC. It's hard not to do if you have it in your hand. Like it just is the natural thing to be like, hey, push your knees out and like poke the stick onto them. But yeah, the body language is huge. And that's something that I would always encourage coaches to just start to be mindful of, because these are things that are subconscious. A lot of the body language is subconscious, right? And you, until you start trying to be mindful of it, oftentimes you don't realize how often your arms are crossed in front of you, how often you're leaning up on something, or you're sitting, or your hands are in your pockets. These things just, we do them naturally. We don't realize them. But once you start to become aware of it, and you can become aware of how often you're doing it. I mean, we talk all the time about perception is reality. And if you are coming across via your body language as disinterested or bored or angry or closed off, even if you're not, people will feel that. And it makes a big difference. So start to be aware. Are your hands in your pocket? Take them out.
Yeah.
Your arms
Yeah,
crossed,
Brad.
uncross them.
Yeah, exactly. Are you clicking the cap on and off of your dry erase marker? Are you clicking the remote, the little thing that closes in the batteries? Like those type of things.
That's like a
I do
fidget.
not do that,
You
but that
don't do
stuff
it.
drives me insane.
Yeah,
When
a little
people do that.
fidget,
Like,
right?
yeah, it drives me nuts. I pick
Yeah.
up on all that stuff. Brad, you asked the question of practicing outside of class, recommendations, and you make mention of a couple options here, which is recording yourself or presenting in front of the mirror. It is awkward. It is tough, like real and direct feedback. And so I would recommend doing some of the things I mentioned before. It's like there's probably, like, I bet your local community college has public speaking courses that you could take. I think Toastmasters is still a thing. I know I did it in like the 2000s, but usually those are like public speaking clubs that are, I found a couple of them in most cities that I lived in that you can join, to where you have to go and present on different topics. Sometimes it's like on the fly. Sometimes you go in prepared and you get feedback from the group. That is a great way to do it. And like acting classes. I'm
Acting
telling you,
classes is
like,
interesting. Yeah.
dude, it's so interesting. And especially because we look at this and we make mention of how when we're coaching, it's a performance. And I'm sure you've experienced this, especially like on seminars of presenting lectures, of like, the better I've got at presenting and knowing the material, the more I've been like, I wonder how I can manipulate, I'm going to say manipulate the group by the way that, like, my pauses, my tones, my facial expressions, my body language, can I elicit different responses based on those different things besides simply what I say? And you learn a lot of that stuff in acting classes. So those were some of the best things for me, which were crazy because they were so uncomfortable. In fact, here's a good one. Like, I was at the University of Florida getting my MBA, and once again, I knew that, like, I hated public speaking, so I went to a acting for non-majors. This was like an entry. This was a freshman level acting class. The University of Florida. I'm an MBA student. I did not need this for my school, and I go to the teacher, and the teacher is like a master's acting student or something like that. And I'm like, hey, I'd like to take this class. I want to get better at talking in front of people. I'm happy to pay for it and sign up for it. But if you just let me sit in on the class, I promise I'll be your best student. I will show up every day and I will do all the assignments. And she let me do that. And I'm literally like 26 or 27 years old. I'm in this class with 18 and 19-year-olds acting class. And I am in there just getting destroyed because I'm terrible at it. But I still don't really know what drove me to do that, other than the fact that I was so bad at it. It was frustrating for me. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
anyways.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in my career and all the things that we've done with the coaching and everything, I can very consciously recognize that if something makes me uncomfortable, it's probably going to be good for me, right? Like if the idea of me going to an acting class, and because public speaking I'm okay with as long as it's prepared. Like I know some people do better if it's not scripted and they can just go up with speaking points and go and do their thing. I do much better if it's scripted. I feel more confident in that. And so the idea of going to an acting class where I have to be vulnerable and it's like unscripted makes me so uncomfortable. And that immediately makes me think that would probably be really good for me. So that's, it's interesting to hear that you did that just, much earlier on. Yeah. And this is so cool. This is such a good example, Amit, of when we were talking about asking one more question and finding out more things about people. But background in filmmaking, 2-year acting course to become a better director.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's really cool. And doing something, he says, more than anything, doing something like that helps you be comfortable in your own skin. And standing up in front of people, whether we're doing it as, a TED talk or you're standing up in front of 10 athletes at the whiteboard for the first time, if you're more comfortable with what you're presenting and your stuff, that's only going to make your presentation better. And it's only going to give you more credibility and allow people to buy into what you're saying. So I think this is all really important.
And it's all going to, like all of that confidence. And I know this discussion wasn't necessarily to be about public speaking, but the truth of the matter is as Amit said right there, is like the more comfortable you are in your own skin, the more confident you are in front of the class presenting, the more authentic you can be and the easier it's going to be to connect with somebody. The more comfortable I'm going to be going up and talking to Kristin and just trying to get to know her a little bit better. And oh, by the way, you being authentic is not, or unauthentic is not disguised to the audience. And so if you're being somebody that you're not, or you're completely faking it and it is very noticeable, the people in the audience are going to notice that. And they're going to be less likely to be vulnerable with you and share some of the things that you're going to be asking them about if you're not willing to do so. So I think all of that stuff is important.
Yeah. And this is why a lot of this can be hard to really pinpoint, right? When we're talking about how to build community, how to connect with every athlete. It's one of the reasons we talk about that F.O.R.D protocol, because it gives us, again, something tangible, because all this stuff, it's like, what is that saying? Like death by 1,000 paper cuts, but the reverse, right? If we just build these little tiny building blocks, one conversation at a time is going to be what creates this bigger community that we're looking for. So it's like every interaction is important, like every class, everything that you do becomes something tiny to just build this bigger community that you're looking to do. So it starts with the individual conversations, and then we hope that it just, you set a good foundation there and it just trickles bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And Brad makes a great point here, is like the deeper the connection I can make with my athletes, the more they're going to buy in, the more they're going to believe in me. They're going to trust me. They're going to be vulnerable with me. They're going to make more progress because they're going to buy into my guidance. Like if they haven't bought in and they don't trust me, then it's going to be hard for them to follow along and want to do what I'm asking them to do and gain buy-in with that. So I think that's huge. Like you giving the example of the paper cuts remind me, like, where I know we're both big fans of Brene Brown. Have you listened to The Power of Vulnerability? She talks about it being like a marble jar, where like every time you have one of those connections and do one of those things, it's like you're putting a marble in the jar to connect, to build more and more, I guess, trust in that individual that you're starting to be a little bit more vulnerable with. And I think that's a big thing. It's, people walk into the gym, and we've talked about how intimidated and how nervous and how scared they potentially are. It's like most people are very vulnerable walking into a CrossFit gym. They're nervous, they're scared, they're unsure whether they can physically do what we're asking them to do. They are probably there because they're trying to achieve some sort of physical outcome, whether it's gain more muscle or lose weight or decrease some sort of health marker, or increase some health marker, or something like that. And so it takes a lot for them to keep showing up, and we need to create an environment to where not only do they trust us, but they also feel supported by everybody else in the gym. And this is only going to happen if we create this environment by setting the tone to where it's like, hey, we're going to connect with people. It was said early in the chat of like, we need to show that we care. And we do that by having those conversations, asking deeper questions, being trustworthy, doing all of that stuff that we've discussed this entire time, which is cool.
So let me ask you this, because I think this is something a lot of coaches deal with when we're talking about pretty much everybody comes into the gym and has some sort of feeling of vulnerability, right? Like you just said. How does that, can you say a couple ways you've seen that present itself, right? Because initially, let me re-ask this. Like initially you think, oh, people come in and maybe I'll paint a picture. I'll give a little avatar, right? Like maybe a 35-year-old female comes in and you can see that just her body language, she's just shy and she's unsure. Maybe she's a little overweight. Maybe she's just, 6 months postpartum or something like that, right? Like we're picturing like, oh yeah, vulnerable, unsure of herself. I've got this. I'm going to take care of her. What's another way that you can see people come in that at the root of it, you're like, they're just nervous and scared?
It's funny because I know that this is where you're trying to push me to, is like, it can also be the guy that seems like a jerk that walks in and won't listen to you and doesn't want to scale and like, no, I can do this. What's the RX weight? Yep, that's what I'm going to do. And clearly they can't. That's this, like you said, that's the same thing as the example female that you just gave of the guy whose ego seems so big that he won't listen to the coaching. It's the same vulnerability of like, I want to prove that I am enough and here's how I'm going to do it. I can't I can't do less weight because that shows weakness, or that I'm less than, or I'm not good enough, or whatever that thing is. And all of that is just rooted more often than not in that vulnerability of being okay and comfortable in your own skin and taking it where you're at. So
which
is that
tells
where you're
100%. And what that does is it tells us as coaches that we have to remember that, and we have to know that both one extreme to the other that we just gave examples of, both of them deserve our attention, both of them deserve our coaching. It just, we approach them in different ways. But if you remember, at the heart of everything, people are walking in the gym for a reason. They need us for a reason. And I just encourage people not to be put off or completely give up when you have that person that comes in with the ego that's like, I don't need coaching, I don't need this, I have to do this. It's like, they need us too. We just need to approach them in a different way. And that's all part of the connecting with our athletes. Like, we're going to connect with different types of athletes in different ways. But you were saying it's a little bit of a game to stand up in front of people and like try to figure out, how you can maybe change your cadence or your pauses. This can also be a little bit of a game. Like, all right, I'm going to get this guy. We're going to do this. We're going to make this happen. I'm going to create a relationship with him, and it's going to be a little harder, but I'm going to figure it out. And then we're all going to get out on the other side better. And that has happened with multiple people that are still in my gym 10 years later. And I just remember when they walked in the first day, and it's like, they were just too cool for school. And now they're one of like the most beloved people of the community. And it's just a cool thing to see. We just have to be mindful of it and kind of stay the course. So.
Yeah. I love that. Brad asked the question, what's one or two things that you intentionally do or think to command a room and make the impact that you want? Off the top of my mind, I think one is just standing with confidence and presenting with confidence. When I'm talking, I'm trying to present with confidence and not yell over everybody or not demand attention, just present in a way that garners attention and respect. And I think this goes hand in hand. The way that it garners respect is just trying to connect with everybody. It's like, if I'm in class and I want to make impact, I need to connect with everybody in that class multiple times. And probably like, I need to have at least one touch point with everybody roughly by the time the whiteboard brief's over, or quickly into that general warm up. If I've not said something to everybody there, I'm probably not going to be able to make the impact that I want to. What about you, Kayla? What would be one or two things for you?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like the personal connections, using people's names. I know we say that a lot, and it can seem a little like trite, but it's just so important. Like using people's names, making the impact, or making the connections. For me too, it's just knowing when to stand in front of the room and like be big and loud, and then when to pull people in. So I kind of do a combination with that sometimes. And it just, a lot of it is reading the room and making the call based on what's in front of me to what that particular vibe of the group needs, you know? And that just happens with time and experimentation. I've seen coaches like, all right, guys, you know, like yelling. It's like, that's not what this group necessarily needs. They need a little bit softer touch, like pull them in, like, let's be gentle. But then other groups we might need to, like, I was working with Lindsay Andrew last week, and she was like, all right, time to chalk up and slap the traps. And she was just getting all fired up. But it's what that group, it was good for that group. People were loving it. And it's just like slap trap and chalk up and everything. But not every group needs that, you know?
Well, it's not only the group, but it's the individual, right? She has the ability to do that in a way that neither one of the two of us could do it, right?
Yeah, I can't even repeat how she did it without sounding silly, but good. Yeah, just again, awesome. Comes back to being authentic, right? We've got to figure out what works best for us as individuals and just turn the knob up a couple notches bigger than maybe comes naturally. So
that's it.
That was good.
Yeah, as always, a pleasure. Enjoyed you guys being on. Love the contributions and the questions. If you guys want to learn more about coaching in general, about this topic, about like coaching topics in general, the Knowledge Pro is the place for you. We've got video content, we've got lessons, we've got small group calls, you've got access to us and other trainers. So make sure you guys go to besthouroftheirday.com/the knowledge to check that out. And then also, if you're an affiliate owner and you want to be a part of Affiliate University and you want to try that for free, go to besthouroftheirday.com. There's free trials. That's free trial. Insane that you get a chance to be a part of the program for free. And so make sure you guys go sign up for that and check that out. Otherwise, we will see you next Thursday. And always a pleasure. Appreciate you, team. Thank you for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. Now, if you're a coach who wants to coach more effectively, impact your members, and advance your career, then the Knowledge Pro is the next step. Inside, you'll get hundreds of coaching videos, weekly calls with level 4 coaches, and direct feedback on your coaching. From homework reviews to full class breakdowns, we do it all. This is the best way to grow as a coach and take your skills to the next level. Now, you can join the Knowledge Pro at besthouroftheirday.com/the knowledge. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. Now keep coaching, keep improving, and we'll see you next time.